The memory chips inside your phone, your laptop, and your game console now cost more than 2.5 times what they did a year ago. And the companies that make them warn the price could double yet again by the fall of 2027. That squeeze is already showing up on American store shelves this week, and at the very same time, it is minting brand new fortunes on the other side of the world. This is KnowFlo Daily. We start with a quick run across the front page. 4 stories moving right now. The private equity giant KKR has teamed up with energy capital partners to buy the energy sales and distribution company DCC Energy in a deal that values it at about $7.66 billion. Shareholders will receive 6,525 pence a share in cash, plus a dividend, which works out to a premium of roughly 24% over the stock's undisturbed price. DCC's board had actually rejected an earlier, lower offer back in April, saying it undervalued the company, before the buyers came back with more. And they could end up paying more still if DCC manages to sell off its technology arm by the middle of 2027. The board is now recommending the deal unanimously, and it is expected to close in the first quarter of next year, making it one of the largest energy buyouts we have seen all year. The late Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina will be honored across 2 days this week. On Tuesday, his remains will lie in the Capitol Rotunda, carried in by an armed forces body bearer team, before a funeral service at Washington National Cathedral, where President Trump is scheduled to deliver a tribute. Both of those ceremonies are closed to the public, but carried online. Then on Wednesday, a public procession moves through Columbia, complete with an F-16 flyover, ending at First Baptist Church, where anyone may attend. Graham, who spent 31 years in the Senate and decades before that in the Air Force, died unexpectedly on July 11th from an aortic dissection. The governor appointed his sister, Darline Graham, to serve out the rest of his term, and she has since announced she will run for a full 6-year seat of her own. The fintech app Revolut, which serves more than 75 million customers, is dropping the world's biggest stablecoin, Tether. After August 31st, the app will stop supporting the token entirely and automatically convert any balances left over into ordinary currency. The reason is Europe's sweeping new crypto rulebook, which took full effect on July 1st and requires the companies behind stablecoins to get formally authorized. Tether never applied, and its chief executive has publicly called the new rules dangerous, and Revolut is not alone here. Rivals, including Coinbase, Binance, and Kraken had already pulled back from Tether across Europe, while a competing dollar token from the company Circle, which did get authorized, has been racing ahead on transaction volume. By one measure from Visa, Circle's token moved more than $1 trillion in June, roughly double Tether's. And the top security executive at TikTok's American arm will testify before the House Select Committee on China on September 15th. It will be the first time a TikTok U.S. leader appears publicly before the House since the parent company, ByteDance, finalized a deal back in January to split the American app off from its global business. Lawmakers say they want to press him on President Trump's role in brokering that split and on just how much influence China still holds over the app that some 200 million Americans use. The new American venture is backed by Oracle, Silver Lake, and an Abu Dhabi investment firm, while ByteDance itself hangs on to a stake of just under 20%. But the biggest story today comes off a trading floor in Shanghai, and it is really the other half of that chip squeeze we opened with. China's largest maker of memory chips made its stock market debut on Monday, and honestly, the numbers are hard to believe. Shares of the company, Changxin Memory, opened at nearly 6 times their offering price. During the day, they soared as much as 535%, and by the close, they were still up 466%. At that level, the company was worth around $487 billion, which made it, in a single afternoon, the most valuable company listed on all of China's mainland stock market, passing even the country's biggest bank. The offering itself raised $8.6 billion, and that figure could climb toward $9.8 billion if the bankers exercise an option to sell even more shares. Either way, it is the largest chip industry listing in China's history, and the second largest offering the mainland has ever seen, behind only a giant bank listing from 2010. Demand was almost absurd. The slice of shares set aside for ordinary retail investors was oversubscribed 212 times over. And keep in mind, this is a young company. It was founded only in 2016 in the city of Hefei, and it is already the 4th largest maker of these memory chips in the world, trailing just Samsung, SK Hynix, and America's Micron. Its revenue in the first 3 months of this year jumped more than 700% from the year before. So why does a stock listing halfway around the world matter to you? Because for years now, Washington has tried to slow China down by cutting off its access to the most advanced chip-making equipment. And this listing is an enormous vote of confidence in China's answer to that, which is to build the technology at home instead. Analysts at the bank Nomura started coverage with a buy rating, and they expect Changxin's share of the world's memory production to climb from about 10% today to roughly 18% by the end of 2028. they do warn the risks are real, from rising tensions between the US and China to softer customer demand and tougher competition back home. Now let us go deeper on the money and the machines behind the artificial intelligence boom, because today it is everywhere. Start right in your living room. Microsoft says Xbox console prices are going up yet again on August 1st by $100 on some models and $150 on others. The cheapest Series S will jump from $399 to $499. The top-of-the-line Series X with a disk drive climbs all the way to $800, and the 2TB model is being discontinued entirely. Microsoft is blaming what it calls a components crisis. It says the cost of the storage and memory that go inside a console have climbed more than 2.5 times and could double again by late 2027. The company even took the unusual step of reminding everyone that it normally sells consoles for less than they cost to build, unlike a phone or a computer. And it is not only Microsoft. Sony has already pushed its digital PlayStation 5 from $400 at launch up to $600, and the PS5 Pro now runs $900. Microsoft says it is working with retailers on trade-in programs and cheaper refurbished consoles to soften the blow. Still, this is the third Xbox price increase in just 13 months, and it landed only hours after Apple raised prices on MacBooks and iPads. Investors did not love any of it. Microsoft shares fell almost 4% that day, and Apple's dropped 5%. That very same hunger for computing power is lifting Amazon. The company reports its latest earnings on Thursday, with Wall Street looking for around $197 billion in total revenue, and several of the big banks have just raised their forecasts for its cloud division in particular. Bank of America now expects Amazon Web Services to grow 33% from a year ago, and it points straight at demand from artificial intelligence customers, including Anthropic and services built on top of OpenAI. To put the scale of this in perspective, that cloud unit alone brought in $37.6 billion in the first quarter, its fastest growth in 15 quarters. It made up only about a fifth of Amazon's total sales, but it generated nearly 60% of the company's operating profit. And Amazon's own chip business, its homemade answer to NVIDIA, is now running at more than $20 billion a year, with purchase commitments from Anthropic, OpenAI, Meta, and Uber. Analysts at KeyBank and Goldman Sachs have both lifted their price targets to $335, and they note that spending on Amazon's Bedrock AI service nearly tripled in a single quarter. The takeaway is pretty simple. Companies are pouring money into artificial intelligence, and the cloud giants are the ones collecting it. But the competition is coming fast and cheap from China. A Beijing startup called Moonshot, which is backed by Alibaba, is releasing its newest artificial intelligence model for free public download today. And this model is enormous, around 2.8 trillion parameters, which the company says makes it the first openly available model of that size anywhere. It uses what is called a mixture of experts design and can take in a full million tokens at once, which makes it well suited to marathon coding jobs and dense research work. And anyone can download it, change it, and run it on their own machines at no cost. Business has been booming. Sales at Moonshot have jumped at least sixfold since an earlier version of the model launched this month, and the startup is now raising money at a $50 billion valuation, with a Hong Kong public offering possibly coming as soon as this year. It has not been without drama. A White House official last week accused the company of training the model on NVIDIA chips that are banned from export to China, and the model's arrival helped set off a sell-off in artificial intelligence stocks because it showed Chinese models closing the gap on the American frontrunners, OpenAI and Anthropic. And every one of those machines needs electricity, which brings us to a company called Bloom Energy. It makes fuel cells that deliver power to data centers right on site without waiting years for the grid to catch up. Last year, it stood up power for Oracle's data centers in just 55 days, and Oracle has since expanded that deal to nearly 3 gigawatts. Business is, by most measures, thriving. Revenue is up 130% from a year ago, and the company is sitting on a backlog worth $20 billion. It recently expanded a partnership with the investment firm Brookfield Fivefold, all the way to $25 billion. And yet, the stock has fallen 43% in just the past month, sitting well below what analysts believe it is worth. It is a strange split screen. Here's a company signing gigantic deals to help power the artificial intelligence build-out, while nervous investors quietly ask the question hanging over this entire boom. What if all of this spending does not pay off? A few more before we let you go. Marvel used its Comic-Con panel to confirm Black Panther 3, arriving in December of 2028. Ryan Coogler returns to direct, Letitia Wright is back as Shuri, and a new actor, David Johnson, will play the now-grown son of T'Challa. Denzel Washington is joining the cast as well, in a role Coogler says he wrote specifically for him. For scale, the first Black Panther, back in 2018, earned $1.3 billion worldwide. The 5 D-Day landing beaches in Normandy have just been added to the UNESCO World Heritage List, honoring the more than 150,000 Allied troops who came ashore there in 1944. Also newly inscribed this week, Greece's Mount Olympus, long imagined as the throne of Zeus, and the Okefenokee Swamp down in Georgia. Formula One is bringing a race back to Malaysia this October, its first at the Sepang circuit since 2017. It is filling in for the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian races, which were canceled because of conflict in the Middle East. And in a genuinely odd twist, the Malaysian race will still officially carry the name of the Bahrain Grand Prix. Mark your calendar for August 12th. A total solar eclipse will sweep across parts of Spain, Iceland, and Greenland, the first one visible from Western Europe since the year 1999. And it happens to fall on the very same night as the peak of the Perseid meteor shower, so anyone under clear skies is in for a rare double feature. Viewers across the United Kingdom will catch a deep partial eclipse with more than 90% of the sun covered. And finally, John Cena. The wrestler turned actor told Comic-Con he was truly scared while filming his new action comedy, the one based on Matchbox toy cars, because the director insisted he perform his own stunts, including a scene hanging off a helicopter. Cena says he hates heights, hates ledges, and joked that he spent the whole shoot jumping off buildings and cheating death. From a man who body slams people for a living, that is quite the confession. That is your news for today. A world running on memory chips and betting almost everything on the machines. That was KnowFlo Daily. Sign up for your personalized newsletter at knowflo.io. News picked for you, your local news included, free.